Hello everybody, welcome to another chess video. I'm going to be showing a game I played against a FIDE master who is, I think, currently rated somewhere in the 2200s, and it was a chess league match played on board 1. This game started with c4 from me, g6, then knight c3 and c5. So we're playing the English symmetrical. Both of us end up doing a fianchetto, and then black plays knight c6. So a completely symmetrical position, whereupon I play knight f3. And here black has several choices. e6 is the move I've often played. e5 is meant to give white a very small edge, but it is definitely playable. Knight f6 is the pure symmetrical English. Knight h6 is a move I've seen before. But his move d6 is one of the most popular moves. And I think castling is good for white, but I prefer to play the sort of mirror move, d3. And then, because black has not yet developed their g8 knight, white still keeps a small edge. And if knight f6, I can play moves like bishop g5 or even bishop d2 as a move. But e6 has been played a few times. I've faced this on several occasions, but usually I haven't played against it in long play tournament games or in league matches. Castles and then knight g to e7. So black's plan is to play d5, but the reason d6 is useful as a move to be included, not just a pure waste of a move, is black can often play things like bishop d7, or even just play e5 later on. So there's some flexibility for black. Then bishop d2, while bishop g5 is possibly a bit better, or is certainly the more common move, I like bishop d2 because I can sometimes put it on c3, challenging black's g7 bishop. Queen d7, rare move, but the idea is to guard the knights and play with a fianchetto on the other side of the board at the same time. And I set off a trap with knight to e4, hoping that black will capture on b2, and then here I have a lovely move d4, where the threat is to play knight to f6 check next turn. If bishop takes pawn, I can take with the knight. Do the same plan, and black could be in really deep trouble here. If moves like king f8 are played, castling would lead to knight f6 check. Then this doesn't work because bishop h6 will force the king to a light square, and then I can check on f6 with the knight. It's a very difficult position for black to have. There's not a lot of good moves here, and if they're having to play moves like knight g8, or moving the queen somewhere so that I can check and prevent the black king from getting safe with castling, I believe that white has the edge. But he played h6, a kind of waiting move, also stopping bishop g5. So now I offered the trade. He declined with e5, and if black can play f5 with a lot of extra space and then quickly develop their pieces in castle, I think black has the edge. So it may look like a completely useless move playing a3, but the plan is to try and quickly expand on the queen side and centre with moves like b4. Hopefully I can get enough pressure so that my initiative on the queen side may be worth being pushed back. b6, b4, bishop b7, and here I could attack the black knight with b5, but I wasn't certain if knight d4 actually gave white anything here. So my move e3 is attempting to stop knight d4, and I could also try pushing d4 myself, trying to gain more space. Takes, and then black played an unexpected move, d5. I was expecting castling, where I believe white has no issues. Here I really didn't want to take, because black can capture back with the knight, and I think all their pieces are working well together. So my move knight e to d2 is a move I don't like to have to make, and I completely missed that after the move d4, black actually is going to win my b pawn, because my bishop will have to move, and then the knight will take it. So I could take first, which I did. I thought bishop b2 was also an interesting move, but in the end I felt that opening up the e file for my rook could be useful later in trying to attack the poor black king, which has not yet found a sanctuary on either side of the board. Then bishop b2 and knight takes b4. So black is up a pawn, but does have some small problems in the next few turns. So I attempt to go for a trick with bishop to a3, and if black gets greedy with knight to d3, capturing a pawn, knight b3, discovered attack on the knight, and I think black has two sort of good moves here. There's knight back to c5 and back to e5. Both fail for interesting reasons. So here I would play bishop takes c5, pawn takes, then knight takes c5, where I am attacking the queen and bishop simultaneously. Take on b7, and now I can simply move the knight maybe to d2. And then the queen and the rook are skewered, with black having a lot of problems with their king. So if they play knight c6, for example, and not only do I have things like queen a4, which will attack the knight and pin it, but I also have rook e1 check, which will force the black king to a bad square. And I might have even had knight to e5 or knight takes d4 instead of knight d2. So overall, white's position is definitely good. The other move black can try is knight to e5. This also fails due to the move knight takes e5. The black queen is attacked, so they'll have to take the knight. Then I can play bishop takes bishop. No, they have to take back. Now I grab the knight, and whichever way black takes, I believe queen takes is the more natural move, but king takes is also possible. I can play rook e1, and there's not a lot black can do here to prevent me playing f4, which will attack the pinned bishop and then take it, winning a piece. So all this looked good for white, but instead my opponent found the retreating move knight c6. I try coming in, knight e4, and black is able to castle their king just in time. And here maybe I made a slight error, but I think it's still a good move. Rook e1, rook d8, and then I play knight d6, which may have been the better move on the previous turn. Black plays rook b8, and then I decide that because black's pieces are mostly on the queen side of the board, on the left-hand side, then I can actually try going for the black king. I think this is a bit too optimistic, to be honest. Perhaps I should simply take the bishop on b7, claim that because I have two bishops and black doesn't, that it's fair, maybe enough compensation for a pawn. I don't really believe that, but I definitely think that white is not totally worse here. Maybe only a tiny bit worse than black. So knight c8, a retreating move. I'm not sure about this. This only encouraged me to first trade pieces and then push h5, trying to go for the king. g5, blocking the position, and here I definitely played a subpar move, but it looked interesting. Queen c1 is apparently the very best move to attempt to sacrifice the knight on g5, with my queen providing backup, but instead I sacrificed immediately and then played h6. So the plan is to play queen h5 next turn. If the bishop does not take my pawn, then my queen, my pawn, my rook, and my two bishops can very quickly go for the black king, and checkmates could follow. So black captures, I bring in the queen. Excellent move from black, king g7, and what this does is it allows black to, well, first capture after I try f4, attempting to go for the bishop. But black's able to play rook h8 now, which I did briefly look at as an idea, but I hadn't realised quite how useful this was as a defence. If I'd have seen rook h8 when I sacrificed the knight, I may not have sacrificed the knight. So bishop h3, attempting to continue my initiative. Queen d8, saving the queen. And here, maybe I went a bit wrong, but I thought that forcing the king to g8 with checks and preventing my queen being lined up with the black rook, I thought that improved my queen and made his king devalued. But it's possible that my next move, rook a2, should have been played earlier to have better impact on the game. And my plan is to play the rook on a2 to g2, going for the king, bringing all my pieces into the attack. But it turns out black has a brilliant move to survive all this, which is rook e7, a move I totally missed. And what this does is it challenges the rook on e1, and if I take it with the bishop, black can capture back with their knight on c8. Even though they've lost some points, I gave up a lot earlier to try and go for the king. So in actual fact, black is ahead. If I take the knight on c8 now, though, the rook will take my rook check, and I will lose points. So I don't know what I'd have played here. Maybe rook g2 first. But I think black can block with their bishop, and they should be fine. Instead, though, knight on c8 to e7 was played. Then I got the check. And very difficult to defend this. Bishop g7 is correct, but after queen f6, I'm threatening mate on g7, attacking the knight 3 times, bishop, rook and queen, and also I've got all my pieces attacking the centre and the king side. And black still has the rook on b8, rook on h8, and the knights being kind of pinned and tied down to each other, and a pinned bishop. Not easy at all to play. Black missed the best move here. Apparently pinning yourself with queen f8, guarding against queen takes g7, is the right way to go. And I had thought I had enough after bishop to f5, black bringing their rook over, and then bishop e4. But here, originally thinking the 2 knights are now pinned, the bishop's pinned, I've got all my attackers on something that's going to be a tactic to win, surely. But no, king h8, unpinning their bishop and going after my queen is correct. And I simply do not have enough. So I believe the best move is, it might even be queen takes knight. And knight takes queen, I grab the bishop, they take me, and then I can capture on c6. Where we're probably getting a drawn ending with opposite coloured bishops. But I am still a pawn down, so it's possible that I may be worse in this position. Instead, though, the move, which was not as good, was played. Knight g6, trying to destroy my attack. What it does is it leaves the knight open for a capture, queen takes knight. And if the rook takes my bishop on h3, I can not only take their rook, but I can also play my rook on e1 to the end, onto e8, forking king and queen. They save the rook, and I immediately play check, which is a bit inaccurate, because amazingly, after king h7, if I take their queen, they take mine, and if I move my queen away, they take my rook. They've got 2 attackers on it now. So unfortunately, I had to give up my attacking rook and then move the queen back. So I think I've lost some of my initiative. It turns out that the computer said after the game, white still has a slight advantage because of the 2 bishops and better coordination of forces. But it's now become very difficult to win. He played an attacking move, queen h4. I'm not sure if that's right, because I get to line my rook up with the king and queen, going for tactics. King g8, avoiding the lining up of the queen and king. But now I have a winning line. What would you play as white to continue the attack? Queen e8 check. Doesn't really matter that much which way it's blocked with, because then I capture on f8. then queen g3 is played, because if knight takes f8, which is the move to analyse, I have rook g2 check. If king h8, I take the knight with check, but if king h7, I can play a check with the bishop first. Wherever the king moves doesn't really matter. I will take up the knight, check, and then mate next turn. Instead, black tries queen g3. I block the check with an attack on black's own queen. Then they take my bishop, and apparently bishop e7 for white is mate in about 4 or 5 turns. I did not see that because I simply saw discovered check, bishop d6, winning the rook. And at this point, the opponent resigned. It's too much material for me to be ahead by, not to win the game. So overall, my sacrifice of the piece was not totally sound, but it did leave my opponent lots of issues, and they were very low on time near the end of the match, which definitely contributed to them playing not the best defences. So we won the match in the end. I believe it was 2.5, 1.5 to us. So that means our team is probably going to win the chess league that I'm playing, but there are still several games left, so it's not yet a certainty that it will happen. Thanks for watching, and I will do a new video sometime next week. Alright, bye.